What is the population of New Hampshire? The population of New Hampshire is 1,316,470 people as of the 2010 census. We're a small state. Connections and relationships are easier to be formed and to maintained in a state that is smaller in total population than many urban environments elsewhere. We also do our business in small units. We have only 13 cities, the largest of which has a population of approximately 100,000. We have 221 towns, and we have 25 unincorporated places. What are the three branches of New Hampshire state government? The three branches of New Hampshire state government are the executive, legislative, and judicial branch. The executive branch includes the governor, the executive council, and executive branch agencies, such as the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Justice, the Department of Safety, the Department of Insurance, and any other state departments. The legislative branch includes the New Hampshire House of Representatives and the New Hampshire Senate. The judicial branch includes the courts. We have two trial courts, the Circuit Court and the Superior Court, and we have one appellate court, the New Hampshire Supreme Court. In New Hampshire, the governor's term of office is how many years? In New Hampshire, the governor's term is 2 years. What that means is that with a 2-year term, the governor is always thinking about or reflecting on the next election cycle. It's harder for a governor with a 2-year term to engage in strategic and long-term thinking. And it's much harder for a governor to become fully informed about major public policy issues in the state in only a 2-year term. What is the Executive Council? The Executive Council is a group of 5 individuals elected in Executive Council districts across the state for 2-year terms that have certain executive responsibilities that they share with the governor. And if you're trying to keep track of what the Executive Council does, you need to remember the acronym CAR, because they manage contracts, appointments, and roads. And if you can believe it, the Executive Council has to approve any state contract over $10,000. With regard to appointments, they have to approve many of the gubernatorial appointments, the governor's appointments to be commissioners of departments. They have to approve all of the judicial appointments. What is the general court? First of all, the general court is not a part of the judicial branch, even though the term used is court. The term general court is the collective term for both bodies of the New Hampshire legislature. So the general court is the combination of the New Hampshire House of Representatives and the New Hampshire Senate. The New Hampshire House of Representatives has how many members? The New Hampshire House of Representatives has 400 members, and these members are referred to as representatives. The New Hampshire House is the 3rd largest English-speaking democratically elected body in the world, behind the United States House of Representatives and the British House of Commons. That means, if you do the math, there is one representative for every 3,200 New Hampshire residents. And that's 3,200 residents. That's not 3,200 voters. So, depending on the way the voting districts are defined, you may vote for only a single representative, or you may vote for more than one if you vote in a multi-member district. For example, I live in Manchester in Ward 2, and I vote every year for 3 representatives. As you think about the House of Representatives, in addition to thinking about 400 people, You also need to know, as you think about advocacy, that the House of Representatives has almost no professional staff. There are 5 committee researchers that support all 400 members. The members of the House do not have offices. They each has 1 file drawer and a locker in the basement. What this means is that you will only be able to contact your representatives by calling them or writing them at home, because they don't maintain a presence at the State House or the Legislative Office Building. The New Hampshire Senate has how many members? The New Hampshire Senate has 24 members, and they're referred to as senators. The New Hampshire Senate, in contrast to the House, has more staff. Most senators have at least shared administrative support as well as committee research support. In that sense, they are different than the House members. What they do share, however, is that they expect to be contacted by their constituents, and it's perfectly acceptable to call them at home. You can also reach them through their staff members because, as I indicated, they do have staff that answers phones for them. New Hampshire legislators serve how long? The terms of New Hampshire legislators are 2 years. And if you think about it, that's not very much time to learn about all of the issues that come before them as a member of the General Court. The other thing to keep in mind is that approximately 1/3 of the House and Senate turn over every year, so that it's not uncommon to have 130, 150 new members of the House every 2 years, or 6 to 8 new members of the Senate every 2 years who have never served in those bodies and have to get quickly up to speed on the various issues that they have to deal with. And in that sense, the legislators rely on their constituents and advocates to help them understand the issues that they're dealing with. So you, as an advocate, become a resource to them, because in many cases you will know more about a particular issue than a legislator will. How much are New Hampshire legislators paid to serve in the legislature? Both House members and Senate members are paid $100 a year. The only exception to that is for the leader of the House, who is referred to as the Speaker of the House, who is paid $125 a year, and the Senate President, the leader of the Senate, who is paid $125 a year. What this means is that these people are truly citizen legislators. Many of them are either retired, they have independent businesses, or they schedule their jobs around their service as a legislator. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with these folks on a particular policy matter, they make an extraordinary commitment to public service by choosing to run and serve in the New Hampshire legislature. And they are deserving of all of our respect and consideration for that very important choice. What this means about these folks is that these are your friends, your neighbors. They're the people that you sit next to in your service clubs or on nonprofit boards. You're going to run into these people in the grocery store, at the dump, at civic functions. And so you need to think of them as people that you can talk to on a regular basis about issues that matter to you. The annual legislative session starts when and ends when? The New Hampshire legislative session starts in January and ends generally toward the middle or the end of June every year. New Hampshire does have annual sessions. It used to meet only 2 years, but that changed about 25 years ago. In the period between June and December, there is a minimal legislative business done, study committees and those types of things, but the legislature as a body is not meeting during that time. As you think about what you can do as an advocate, particularly in the downtime, this July through December, remember that if your legislators are not in Concord, they're in your communities, which means that you can find them, you can talk to them about what your organization does or what issues are important to you, and you need to take advantage of that time to get yourself connected with these people and form relationships with them. On average, how many bills are introduced in each legislative session? On average, about 1,000 bills are introduced every year, and they cut across every imaginable public policy issue, from license plates for antique cars, where you can locate wind farms, to huge issues like what should the state be spending on alcohol and other drug services. A legitimate question is, how do 400 members of the House and 24 members of the Senate deal with 1,000 bills a year that cut across this wide range of subjects? And the answer is, they do their work in committees. And in the House, both in the House and the Senate, there are about 20 standing committees that are by subject matter. So in the House, there's a Judiciary Committee that talks about bills, talks about issues around the courts. There's a Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee that talks about issues around the prisons and law enforcement. There's a Health and Human Services Committee. There's a Commerce Committee that talks about insurance issues. There's a Science, Technology, and Energy Committee, and there are a number of other committees. There are similar committees, slightly different names, in the House and the Senate, but I think you get the idea about the number of the fact that there are 20 committees. In the House, each representative, because there are 400 of them, serves generally only on one committee. In the Senate, the committees are smaller. They're between 4 and 6 senators per committee, and senators serve on more than one committee. People are placed on committee at their request. They make a request to the Speaker or the Senate President about where they would like to serve, and generally speaking, they're placed on committees where they have some expertise.